Like bookbinding itself, many questions I get sound simple enough, but once I try to answer the question, I realise they are deceptively hard. Maybe the most common of these is, what books on bookbinding do you recommend? There are a few books I use regularly. Then there are books that for some reason, even though I consider them extremely good, I don't consult as often. Then there are books that other people say are great, but I'm not a fan of. I'm aware I carry information obtained within a context, which is a bias. So should I mention a book that is regularly recommended, and maybe with merit, but that I don't particularly like? I find books in this last category particularly vexing. In the comments, I know people will say that I've forgotten some book that's their favourite, and I'll say nothing in response, and I'll leave it to you to decide where that book sits in relation to my views. The approach I've decided to take is to keep it simple. I'll start with a dozen books for people at the beginning of their bookbinding journey. I'll briefly explain why I recommend the books, but not review them. I'll focus on books that maximise value to people advancing their skills. This list was originally made for my Patreons and was 10 books long, but there are a few books I felt bad about leaving out. My new plan is to keep it to 12 books, and these are the books I would have told myself to buy at a rate of 1 per month in this order. The first book is Bookbinding, a Step-by-Step Guide by Kathy Abbott. If you must buy a book on bookbinding to get you going in the hobby, this should be your first one. This is simply the best modern book that gives an overall view of getting started with bookbinding, from tools and materials into simple projects and then more advanced books, including binding with leather. The next book is Introduction to Bookbinding and Custom Cases, a project approach for learning traditional methods by Tom and Cindy Hollander. Having made your first book using Kathy's book, if you still want to get similarly good advice but in another voice, this is the next book. The formula sheets for cut sizes are very popular in this book. My first bookbinding book was the Thames and Hudson Manual of Bookbinding by Arthur Johnson. While this book was first published in 1978, the information is still completely relevant, but provides more historical context than the first two books on the list. It's a comprehensive survey of tools and materials and techniques from the period when it was written. I love this book. Books on bookbinding can be heavy reading, but I love how easy to read Bookbinding by Hand for Students and Craftsmen by Lawrence Town is. Some of the advice is dated, but it's such a good practical guide that I think everyone serious about traditional bookbinding should have a copy. John Mason wrote on many allied crafts in several books. Much of what he wrote was recycled in different books. Art and Practice of Printing, Volume 5, Bookbinding and Ruling, contains the bulk of what he wrote on bookbinding. It is trade heavy, and I particularly like it because it is one of the most valuable references on trade stationery binding. But like Town, it reads really well and has so much practical information that everyone can use it today. Keen followers of my blogs and videos may know I've said in the past I wasn't a fan of Deal. Bookbinding, Its Background and Technique by Edith Deal took a while to grow on me. I now love it. It's the one book on the list that represents the American bookbinding tradition. I think one of my biggest issues early on was the thick, soft cover combined 2-volume edition, which I find cumbersome to read. Maureen Duke was one of the best-known bookbinding teachers of the 20th century. The book she recommended was Modern Bookbinding by Alex Vaughan. Vaughan didn't write as much as Mason, but everything I said about Mason applies to Vaughan. The 1996 edition has a foreword by Maureen and omits some of the commercial machinery type material. However, the earlier editions with the green dust jacket are very beautiful and are nice books for reading. Bookbinding and the Care of Books by Douglas Cockrell is the oldest book on the list, and it remains highly relevant. Cockrell was a key player in a period of innovation in binding, and he chronicled the methodology of his time in this book. Cockrell was Cobden Sanderson's first apprentice at the Doves Bindery, and his son Sandy continued the business and became a famous binder also. The film, The Art of the Marbler, focused on the Cockrell Bindery in Sandy's time, is a must-see. Restoration is an ever-evolving field. Most of the books on the subject are very dated and often provide advice contrary to modern practices. However, the restoration of leather bindings by Bernard Middleton is an exception. Many of the techniques have stood the test of time. However, before you go over so a shoulder, please get some current advice. The information about tools, materials and descriptions of historical structures is excellent. It also contains a wealth of information about binding in general and lots of historical information. Middleton's other great book is A History of English Craft Bookbinding Technique. Should a textbook be on this list? The Archaeology of Medieval Bookbinding by Zimai is a textbook rather than a how-to manual. But if you do want to bind early historical models, or just know about the early history of the book, this is a must-have. It may be the greatest piece of bookbinding scholarship ever. There is a reason it's late on the list. You want to be sure your interest in bookbinding is going to be enduring and that you have a good understanding of basics before you tackle this book. What can I say? Hetty Kyle is a genius. The Art of the Fold, How to Make Innovative Book and Paper Structures by Hetty Kyle and someone whose name I can't say, is full of fun and relaxing projects. It's the only book in the list where you'll find popular modern structures such as accordion or blizzard books, many of which were made popular by Hetty. Some people might consider making this the second book on their list to buy. At the end of 12 months of bookbinding, I'm sure you're ready to move on to something more advanced. The book for you is Fine Binding, a Technical Guide by Jen Lindsay. As Lindsay says in regard to a book with the title Fine Binding in it, if you're a novice, you may think that this kind of work is beyond you, but then follows up with the point, but why wait? Making a fine binding is a good education in observation, attention to detail, and meticulous workmanship. Why wait indeed? I hope you find this list useful. As always, I really appreciate you hitting the big thumbs up button. If you're able and want to, you can support the making of more videos like this through Patreon or with a one-off contribution, and the details are in the description below. To find videos I've made on specific topics or other projects, the best place to go is the Daz Bookbinding Video Guide. It's the index to the channel and there's a link in the description below. If you want to be notified of my future videos, please hit the subscribe button and select the notification bell. Until next time, cheerio.